Good evening, folks. It is finally Wednesday. You're over the hump, and you are listening to the Empower Hour with me, Don Wyckoff. Now, if you did not know, the purpose of this show is to teach people that it is never too late, and it's certainly never too early to make positive life changes, to take a different path, connect to your passions, and live your life to the fullest while staying true to who you are. Now, joining me tonight, Mr. Garrett Smith, an advocate and a civil rights leader in the fight for equal rights and justice. He is with the Center for Community Alternatives. And before we get into this, I actually wanted to read. How you doing, Garrett? It's good to see you.
I'm
Thank you
good.
for joining me. Are you in Italy right now, man?
Yes, sir. Yes, I am.
You are. Okay. Wow. All the way from Milan, Italy. Jesus, this
Yeah.
show is getting so much cooler by the year, man. Okay, so I'm going to do a little reading here, folks. The reason is because it kind of sets up the precedence for why we're having the discussion we're going to have today. And what this is a former judge's call to eliminate mandatory minimum sentencing laws. This is by Nancy Gertner. She was a former judge and a senior lecturer on law at Harvard University. So please pay attention, listen to what she's saying here, as this will open our discussion. She writes, "There is no other way to put it. In my nearly 2 decades on the federal bench, I presided over a system of mass incarceration. While I strove to do justice, too often mandatory minimum sentences laws transformed my role from judge to a cog in the wheel, requiring prison terms that were unfair, unjust, and disproportionate. I sentenced young people to mandatory minimums without regard to the substance abuse I saw, the mental health treatment they needed, the trauma they had almost universally suffered, and the impact on their families and communities of disappearing them into cages for years or decades. Now, while on the bench, my colleagues and I did what we could do to address America's failed experiment in mass incarceration. But it wasn't enough. We expressed our objections in articles in open court in U.S. versus Vasquez. My colleague, Judge John Gleason, was especially direct. As a result of the 5-year mandatory minimum, there was no judging going on at Vasquez's sentencing. The prosecutor's refusal to permit consideration of a lesser sentence ended the matter, rendering irrelevant all the other factors that should have been considered to arrive at a just sentence. We were not able to consider the facts before us. We were just clerks signing our names on a dotted line. Our horror stories could continue. One of the men I sentenced lost his parents to prison and drugs. At 14, he lived on the streets and dealt drugs to purchase school supplies for his siblings. By the time he reached adulthood, he had a record that triggered a mandatory minimum sentence of 10 years, and there was nothing I could do about it. That is why I support the passage of the 3 bills that aim to address injustice in New York's sentencing laws: the Eliminating Mandatory Minimums Act and the Second Look Act and the Earned Time Act. The cornerstone of our criminal legal system is the right to a fair trial. But in New York, 98% of cases are resolved by guilty plea. The reason for this is disturbing as it is simple. Mandatory minimums serve to coerce defendants, innocent and guilty alike, to take plea deals rather than risk severe sentences for exercising a basic right assured to them by the Constitution. Put simply, our current laws punish people who exercise their right to trial. The Eliminating Mandatory Minimums Act is a critical step towards ending the coercion of plea deals and allowing judges to make individualized determinations based on facts of the case at hand. The legislation would allow judges to consider mitigating circumstances and vest sentencing power with judges, not prosecutors. The Second Look Act would allow incarcerated people to petition for resentencing. Judges could revisit overlong sentences where appropriate. In so doing, we could address decades of unjust sentencing that devastated families and communities. Finally, the Earned Time Act encourages incarcerated people to seek out education, employment, and rehabilitative programs while serving their sentences. This bill rewards incarcerated people who are actively working to become contributing members of society by allowing them to earn good time and merit time credit. Incentivizing participation in programs is an essential step towards building a world where people come out of prison better prepared to be assets assets to our community than when they were sentenced. I was appointed to the bench in 1994, the same year that the notorious 94 crime bill was passed, dramatically reducing access to earned time, ballooning prison populations, and eliminating college access for incarcerated students. Nearly three decades later, even President Joe Biden, the bill's chief architect, has called for change, including the elimination of mandatory minimums and the expansion of earned credit programs. Passing the Eliminating Mandatory Minimum Acts, the Second Look Act, and the Earned Time Act are critical steps towards realizing a fairer and more just legal system. Again, that was Nancy Gertner, who is a former judge and is a senior lecturer at Harvard School of Law. Now, that is some pretty heavy stuff to be coming from a judge that spent that much time sentencing people. I can only imagine, to actually write that and put that out, that this person has spent a lot of time realizing that they were stuck and sending people away. Well, tell us about what you do, Garrett, and what the aim is for Communities Not Cages.
Yeah, well, before I go forward with that, I want to actually share this as well, is that she's one of many judges that's been in support of these bills and the changes that they will bring with their reforms,
Mm.
Um, another judge, a federal judge that spoke openly, publicly, uh, actually came to participated on some of our panel discussions, has been in open interviews about this as well, is federal judge Frederick Block.
Mm.
He's another person. We also had an op-ed that was in support of the Second Look Act and how it will undo excessive sentencing. And that was from Chief Administrative Judge Joseph Zayas. But then we also have the support from current Chief Judge, New York State, Judge Rowan Wilson. So a lot of judges see this as a positive for New York and something that can really help. I always say it's like stop the bleeding. It's
Yeah.
like stopping the meat grinder from continuing. But to go into me and just like what we do and what I do, what my campaign is about, what our campaign is about. So my name is Garrett Smith, obviously, and I'm the statewide organizer for the Center for Community Alternatives, CCA for short. CCA, just to give a brief context, because CCA is pretty expansive with the services that we provide and the work we do in the community. But it started in the 80s and it started around reentry, focusing on reintegration, and then also, as well as people who was dealing with substance addiction. Because, in the 80s, that was like a height of a lot of, the war on
Crack
drugs
and
was
yeah.
happening. It was a lot. It was crack. It was, also the residuals of heroin, because the decade before that was heroin, so it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you have that happening where a lot of people were being incarcerated for having a addiction to a chemical substance. And then in that, you've seen the inhumanities in that, where a person that's a user is being sentenced as if they are a big time drug dealer. Um, and CCA started out of that with trying to fight against that and really provide supports and services for people who are getting caught up in that type of systemic oppression. But then from there, what started to happen is, as you're and again, you might be familiar with this from the peer perspective as well, like just with providing peer support. As you start to work with a person, you start to realize it's more than just this one thing.
Hmm.
It's more than just this area that's impacting their lives. So you start to try to help in all these other areas too. Think of like the 8 dimensions of wellness, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then from there, CCA started branching out into the other areas to try to help people move their lives forward. Is really trying to put a fishing pole in people's hands. But then he realized all of these different areas that a person would need to really get back on their feet, and to start moving forward.
Now, I
So
just want to
that,
ask for the listeners
yeah.
that are probably listening, Garrett,
Mhm.
you live in Milan, Italy. Why do you care
Yeah.
what's happening in the United States and New York in particular?
Yeah. Oh, a lot of reasons. One, I'm an American citizen still, right? So, is that's one. Two, my family still live in America. I have family that lives in California. I do things in California as well. I have family that lives in Louisiana, do things there too. And I have family that lives in New York, Buffalo, New York to be specific. So, do things in Buffalo as well. The reason why I'm working specifically in New York with these things is because one, I'm directly impacted by the system of New York. I spent 6 years in confinement altogether. Also, I'm directly impacted as a family member. I had two brothers that lost their lives to violence. So that's why I look at it as a survivor of crime, as a victim of crime, where I want to stop the bleeding. I want to really do restorative justice, where the whole community is impacted. So, we're not burying a person and we're not visiting a person behind a wall, right? And then my father is also directly impacted. So it's really close to home. I grew up with this, grew up in communities that were really, oppressed. Or I want to speak to raw, and I don't want to get graphic with what I'm saying, but it was really difficult, and it was a lot of turmoil, a lot of poverty, a lot of just struggle living, and it was and what I realized is because New York wasn't the only place that I live. So, but what I realized is that it's not just in this city or this zip code that is happening really across the country.
Now, how does that fare with the system that's going on in other countries? You're all over the world.
Yeah,
What's
yeah.
what's
So,
the comparative?
well, the comparison for me, so I'm going to give you a personal thing first, and then I'll bring it out to the macro, right? But for me personally, what it was is that I was living in Syracuse. Okay, I'm knowing all of these things already, right? I was already doing what I was doing, with systems advocacy and trying to reform areas that are oppressive within the system. So I'm doing this, and it was one moment where I was taking my son. So my son was 12 at the time. And I was taking him to Dick's Sporting Goods because we was just getting new sporting equipment, just we train. So,
Hmm.
I'm a coaching dad, right? So we was doing that. And when we was walking through the double doors, it was just like a police officer station to the left of the entrance. And when we was walking through, my son froze. He just kind of like stopped in the doorway. And I didn't wasn't thinking much of it like that, and I was just like, yo, man, what are you doing? Like, come on. Like I didn't even realize what he froze over. And then when we were in the store, it came back to my mind just to ask him, like, yeah, why'd you stop like that? Because it was kind of weird for me, like, why'd you stop like that? And he said, oh, I stopped because I just seen the cop right there, and it just made him freeze. And for me, as a black father growing up in America, that was the aha moment where I'm like, okay, it's settling in on him, because I never like had like pushed to my son where it's like, oh, be afraid of the cops and the boogeyman type of
Yeah,
talk
yeah.
with police. Um, I always told him just use common sense and be, just a normal thing, and have, respect for authority, those type of things. And just as being a father and setting authority in general, it gives him that understanding of respect and authority. So for me, it was like, wow, even though I'm doing all of this, it's still settling in on him to be scared of the cops. You get what I
Right.
mean? You see what I'm saying?
Oh
Like
yeah,
it
man.
didn't matter like what I was doing. It was like because again, the public perception, I'm battling against what's shown on media. It's like it's a lot. It's a lot. So, but I knew because I traveled outside the country a bit, so I knew life wasn't like that. Like I knew that like also law enforcement wasn't like that in every country. It's really not a reality like that in a lot of other places. But when it was settling on him, that to me was like, I don't want my son feeling like he has to play defense. I don't want him to feel like he's being targeted, any of those things, because then it gives you that inferiority complex, where it feels like you always have to prove that you're doing something positive, or prove that you're not a threat, or prove that I didn't want my son to live like that. I didn't want him to
Yeah.
have that stress on his life. And given that he was young enough and I was seeing that, I was just like, went back to my wife. I was like, we gotta get out of here. Like because it doesn't matter how hard you move, because it's really inside the country. So you know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
like if you live in California, you're gonna have the same experiences as if you were living in Louisiana or Florida or New York. So when I seen it like that, I was like, well, it's kind of Stockholm syndrome. So
Yeah, that's too
you
personal,
kind of
man.
just gotta escape it. So is that, but then I have family, I have people that I care about that's still in it, you know. So it's like it's not gonna just I'm not the type of person where like, well, I'm good, I got mines, I'm taken care of, so screw you guys, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
So it's like that. But then, you know, I want to put my children in a position where they can succeed, put them
Yeah,
in a position where they can thrive. And, you know, it's not just the criminal, like the criminalization of Americans are, you know, thinking of the police state, you know, when you think of America, but even the education system, you know, like American students are far behind when you
hmm,
think about the rest of the world, especially when you think about Western nations. Um, the foods, the chemicals that's in the foods, from high fructose corn syrup to all the stuff that Monsanto's can put in without
that's right.
labeling ingredients. It's so many ways where our children are like targeted and, you know, hunted to be either a commodity, a
That's
prisoner, a
exactly
slave.
right. Yeah,
So I
you're
just
exactly right.
wanted to get away from all of that and really like live life to, you know, it's a motto in my family that I try to abide by, which helped me make this decision. And it's, do you follow God's law or man's law? You know,
Right.
and if you follow God's law, you don't really need to worry about man's law because you're not doing anything to corrupt man. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah,
like you're
yeah.
living already a just life. So it was more of that that motivated my decision. You know, I came over to Italy a few times. My wife is Milanese. My children are bilingual, so it was a realistic decision for me. It wasn't like a pipe dream or some pie in the sky. You know, just pick a spot on the map and go. But it was for me. I seen that in the cards for me, and on my path, and it was a chance to really pivot my family to a better future. So
And yet you still living in another country, you still want to make
mhm.
change in the United States. I assume,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
make change here too.
yeah,
I'll
and
do
you
the
know,
same too.
we've
Because
talked
yeah,
about this prior. We were a part of another group,
yeah,
and I don't know if you remember, but I also was incarcerated 6 years,
hmm
4 years in prison in Elmira State Penitentiary. Now, at that time, there was actually programming. There was GED. I could go to college. I could do all of these kind of things. Um,
yeah,
what happened? Where did that go? Apparently, that's not an option anymore.
yeah. Where did it go? One, I think it's a few things for that. It's a few things. One, every facility operates differently. So there's no like there's no mandate that these facilities have to do provide like uniform services or uniform programs. So, you know, you could go to Attica and it's completely different, even from the visitor intake process. Like it's
Right.
completely different than if you go to Fish Scale or if you go to Woodburn, you know, like
Hmm.
they all have their own like identity set up, their process and procedures, you know, they have that. The other thing that I think contributed to it is that is not as programs are not as man, I'm just gonna talk freely, man.
You
Programs are
know
not
what?
as
That's what I
attractive.
want you to do. And you know what?
Yeah.
If harsh words come up that I can't put out
Okay.
today's show, I will beep them out. Speak freely
Okay.
because this is your time to let people know what the hell the problem is and what you
Yeah.
guys are doing to create a solution.
Yeah. So really programs that help a person develop skills, develop, you know, higher education, you know, be an asset into the community, be productive members and you know, be a pillar within their family and their community. That's not attractive for politicians. That's not attractive for people who need to be reelected. They feed off the ignorance of voters. You know, they hope that a voter is not informed. And that's where you have like the tough on crime laws, the like, we need to crack down on this. They
Yeah,
never, you know, it's like the divide and conquer. And it's like long as we keep the masses fighting against each other and thinking, hey, you're the problem, they'll never focus on us. You get what I'm
right.
saying?
Yeah.
Like, you know, so a lot of that where when it was being successful and you see the downsizing of the prisons where it was dropping, it was like at one point, New York State had over 75,000 people incarcerated in their prisons. And then you started seeing it where people were getting out through these programs, and then you start seeing the funding get cut on these programs. You get what I'm saying?
Oh,
So
absolutely.
they
Yeah.
started to do that. Um, and then with that, you had another wave where it's like, hey, we need to crack down on crime. Like, look, all these criminals. Because also in New York State at that time, you had they started closing a lot of psychiatric institutions.
Hmm.
Okay. So they just started like releasing people, but releasing them knowingly, releasing them without proper transition, right? So it's like you haven't, and again, like I try to like explain it to people this way, where it's like they create it's like Purdue Pharma, with the opioid epidemic. Create the drug, but you also have the anecdote. So you're going to create the drug, let the drug do it's cause this chaos, however many years you want to do it, because really it's a dollar point that they're trying to get at.
That's
So
right.
if it takes some
Driven, man.
yeah, if it takes them 5 years to reach that dollar point, okay, we're going to have this chaos being sown for 5 years, and then we're going to give you the anecdote, right? So, or the antidote. So it's like that, and it's the same process that they're doing. It's they empty out all of the psychiatric facilities, okay, as the programs was improving the conditions. They removed the funding from the majority of the programs, where now programs have to pander like today. And I'm sorry to say it like this. That's why I'm gonna piss some people off, but it's just programs have to pander to the facility or the superintendent of the facility to try to provide higher education programs in it, right? To try to do that. And they have to go one by one to the different facilities. And then as they doing that, they got to try to scale up so they can have the staffing or the manpower to even do that. That's
And
like
then the
that's
funding is choked off, so that's not
right. So
possible.
it's like you're throwing, pebbles at a huge, gargantuan type of structure. You're only going to get a few in at a time, right? So
Yeah,
they know it's not going to work like that.
it's designed that way. I totally
It's
believe.
designed that way. Exactly. It's
Yep.
designed that way. And then as that is slowly working, right? Where it's like these one-offs, where these one-off type success stories, as that's slowly trying to work, the whole time you're having where it's like, hey, look at all these looters, or look at all of these heinous people. But it's like, think about this, man. Like, and you've been locked up, right? So just think, if you were, you have people who are like idling in this type of purgatory state, where you're like, they're not developing anything, society's passing them by, their family is dying or moving on with their lives, because what you're gonna do, you could, you get discouraged from even visiting the person, so all of these things. And say you're there for 10 years, and then you're just released. It's not like they really do anything. You might have a 6 month LCTA, right? You might,
Yep.
like, but they're not. They just let you go, And there's 33,000 people currently incarcerated in New York State. The majority of them are coming home.
Yeah.
There's
Yep.
no programs for them, though. So just think of yourself as an individual, where you're put into a box and you're put in there for 10 years, and all these things are whatever, how much time. Even 2 years is a long time, because when you think about even on the job, you have to take trainings to make sure
Yeah, that's right.
you still specialize in that area, right? So, time is moving, society is moving. You get out. If you get out, and if you're a human being, everybody's human being is on this. So you get out and you're in a community, you're poor, you have no skills, you are probably depressed, you got trauma from being locked up. It's not like you've probably seen a lot of stuff,
Oh, I could speak for days on
being
that.
a witness, right? Like seeing these things, all of that, you have to deal with that too, in a community. What are we saying here? Like, what do you expect to happen? And then they say, oh, the recidivism rate. Well, first 6 months a person get out, they're most likely going to reoffend. Well, what do you think?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Let's use some common
Exactly right.
sense. Like, what would you expect to happen to like? That's like when they say, oh, the vets that come back from the war, and they shell shock, and they do this and they do that, but then you don't tell them, like, oh, the VA didn't help them at all. They didn't have no transitions, no supports, no therapy, no none of that stuff set up for them. And then they crash out. And you're like, well, how did they crash out? What happened?
That's
It's
right.
like, do you know what happens in war? Like, what do you think happens over there? What
You
do you
know,
think is really going on? So
that's
it's like, you don't give a person no supports, and then you expect them to do something, like just be positive. Forget all the things that happened to you.
dude, I love what you're saying. I hope the listeners will just take a second to realize something. Okay. I'm going to have you run the stats in a minute, but I do want to read something. When it comes to brain development, the prefrontal cortex is the last major brain region to fully mature. It governs high-level executive functions, including impulse control, long-term planning, risk assessment, emotional regulation, complex decision-making, prioritizing consequences versus immediate reward. Now, prefrontal cortex maturity age. Check this out, listeners. Most contemporary neuroscience converges on the same range. The prefrontal cortex reaches full maturity between the ages of 25 and 30. Now, how many of the people that you were with when you were locked up and I was locked up were locked up at the age before that, before they could really be? So, I mean, again, we're selling this in science. We're teaching this in our schools. We know through the education that those decision-making processes are absolutely not formed fully until we're 25 years old minimally. So how can we continue to persecute and push people into this system where they have to decide, oh, if I take this to trial, one, I don't have the money for a lawyer that could fairly represent me, and I'll be forced to use a court-appointed lawyer who most often,
100 cases, and
yeah, who has 100 cases, doesn't have the drive, doesn't understand your family, and most of them shoot golf with the judge and the prosecutors, and that is where the deals are made. How does a person get a chance to be able to come
that's the
back
point.
from
You
that?
don't.
You're not
That's
going
the
to be.
point. You're
It's
not supposed to.
guaranteed.
Yeah.
And then discharge planning. When I was
The whole thing is like you're not going to unless you have the collateral, of course. But if you're not, the thing that you're looking for, you're hoping that you can get lucky with not getting railroaded.
right.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's your hope.
Yeah,
You
and
know?
that's, I mean, it's ridiculous. And I think about how many of the guys that I met that were in there that I had good relationships with that were sent there at 17 years old.
Yeah.
And I mean, in some cases, they weren't even the ones that did the crime. They were part of the crime, and that association matters. And I think about all of the people, like, again, I'm not going to blow your horn or mine, but we are both two ex-cons, to say it the way the norm around here would be. We're two ex-cons that completely changed the course of our lives with a desire to help others, to make our community stronger, and to be good, loving, compassionate, caring parents, contributing members of society. We're the proof, if they need some, that this is not the way.
I look at it as like we're the proof, but this is what makes me believe in God so much, because I know that I could have easily been one of them as well, just like you too. We could have both
absolutely
easily been one of them. And mine's is like, okay, I did 6 years, but I could have easily been sentenced to 15 years, 25 years. If that happened, my life is completely different.
Yeah.
Completely different. And the thing is, like, okay, you get locked up young, I got out and I was still young, so I still had the energy to try to change my life over and build up my foundation. I'm starting from scratch. Like, I wasn't born with a silver spoon, none of that stuff, right? So it's just whatever I can do with my hands and my mental, right? So just go to work, do your thing. I was young enough to really still establish a foundation.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Some people who get incarcerated at 18 or 19, they'll have like 62 to life, or they'll get like 25 to life. And then, they may appeal it and all these things in the appeal process, all that'll take 12 years sometimes. So, then they get out and they're in their 30s and they still
full of resentment and hate.
Full of resentment, full of trauma, full of I got undiagnosed mental health conditions, all kinds of things going on. And then they got to try to now compartmentalize all of that and deal with the ruthlessness of society. And I mean ruthlessness because for men, society don't care about you.
Yeah,
like, it's really that real. Like, why do you think the suicide rate is so high amongst men in their like mid 30s to their 40s? Because that's when they hit the wall and they realize, like, oh wow, like,
yeah, and let's think about that for a second. When it comes to being released, as you just said, for you and I, we both, minimum, 5-6 years behind the wall.
Yeah.
But when I got out, the culture shock was so insane to me. Now, mine was 88B 1969. Those were my numbers. I'll never forget them as long as I live. That was my identity. But when I got out, dude, just even holding coins, the paper money, seeing a tree, being able to walk into a store,
Yeah.
just I wasn't prepared for all that freedom. I was almost not comfortable because I hadn't been taught how to think for myself, how to negate or how to negotiate the community that I was being released into. And I certainly was not given the tools. I was sent right back to the same place. I committed the crimes
Yeah.
to the same family. And now with the PTSD, as you said, and the stressors that come with it, but also that feeling of, man, I'm dumb. It's like I'm time traveler. I came here from, 1980s and I'm now in the
Right.
1990s and I don't know how things work. That
Then
right
you
there
have that
sets it
shame to
up.
be the one that asks for help.
Yeah, now it's impossible to you feel inferior even more so, not only because of the sentence, but because you're so behind the ball on how things work. It's
Mm.
just not fair. Now, as we're talking, I know a lot of people are going to start to think about, oh, well, yeah, this is that jail reform thing. This is where they're just letting people out
Yeah, of
without
course they
bail.
do that.
Can you
Yeah.
differentiate what the difference is between that and what your agency is working to forward?
Well, we support bail reform 100%. And the
Hmm.
reason why we support bail reform is because we understand what it really is about. A lot of people was like they were misinformed or they let the media, the media does what it do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
If you watching mainstream media,
Follow
news,
the
this,
money and
that,
you'll
this,
realize
that.
every media
Right.
stream is owned by somebody with an agenda.
Come on. It's only like three media companies
That's
that
exactly right.
like, so come on. So my thing is, with bail reform, the biggest trick that they pulled on everybody was saying that you can't set a bail for anyone. Okay. Judicial discretion is an important factor into this, which means that the judge can look at this person. Okay. They can look at the mitigating circumstances. They can look at their criminal record, all these things, and they could make they actually make the determination if a bail should be set for this person or no bail should be set for this person.
Hmm.
Okay. That's up to the judge.
Yeah.
They did not do that at all with bail reform. They'd say, "Oh, the judge can't do it," or they'll say, "Oh, the DA doesn't apply because they just gonna get released anyway," or they just give them an appearance ticket because that's a lie. That's not the way it goes. It's always based on the judge. But if you have people who are trying to sabotage it because people run on being on tough on crime, like that's their bread and butter. Like
Literally, it's
DAs will
revenue
say they have a
driven.
90+% conviction rate because that's how they get reelected. Because they're saying it's a conviction rate, which means these are people who are found guilty of committing a crime. Okay. But what they don't tell you is that the majority of these people that they are having their cases over take plea deals because they know they don't want to get railroaded. They can't fight it.
And they
Most
don't have
people take a
the
deal before
means, the lawyer.
they
Right.
don't have a lawyer. Most people don't even make it to the discovery stage, which means that do you have the actual evidence to take this person to court? People don't even make it there. They take the deal.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bail reform was to stop part of that as well. Okay. Where it's like, don't just have a person languishing in jail just
Yeah.
because that's a tool that the DAs use to get this person to take a deal.
Hmm.
So they could say, like, you could have it where again, they could say, hey, I have this 90+% conviction rate, but if you look at all the cases, they probably only took in two or three people to trial.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the rest of
Right.
the people they just forced into a
Oh, it
plea.
is set up to take the deal, man.
That's in the sports world, that's Pat Staten. That's
Yep.
cheating.
Yep.
You're inflating your numbers.
Yeah.
You
That
know,
is
so
absolutely
so they
right.
need to keep that going. So every time you see a progressive step forward, you see it get rolled back. You see it get pushed back. And it's because you're messing with their money, the way that
Yep.
they make money. The majority of people make money off of another person being either a slave, according to the 13th Amendment, a commodity, which is basically just using you as labor in the community. You're living check to check. You hear stuff like that, where you like living check to check, or you can't move because if you move, how you gonna get another job? So you're kind of like stuck, just like being a worker earner type person. You're not really you slaving away most of your life and not realizing it. Like you ever hear about people who have like a bunch of vacations stored up because they never take vacations
Yeah. I'm
because they
one of
always
them.
work. Always working, right? That's
Yep.
you get turned into a commodity. And then you have professional patience, which is a person who basically is like, your entire day is circled around like services, receiving services, which is meaning that somebody is getting paid off of your social security number, somebody getting paid off of you being on Medicaid, all these like reimbursable services. You waking up in a supported housing apartment, and then you're going to, a drop-in center, or you might go to an outpatient clinic, and then you go to this psychosocial club, and then you go back to your supported apartment. Like the whole day was spent around somebody else making money off of you through a service.
Yeah.
So, a lot of people are getting, converted into that, from some form or fashion. My thing is that I look at it as like, I want to go to the bottom of the bottom, because what I learned in systemic advocacy is if you pull from the bottom, everybody else start to benefit as well. Like, how they talk about like trickle down economics,
Yeah,
stuff like
right.
that.
Yeah, we got to
But
lift
my
people
thing
up,
is
man.
pulling from the bottom, because if you help the person at the lowest at the lowest end, it automatically pulls up everyone else. You get what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
And provides
that's
what we
where
don't have,
we're at.
hope. Hope.
Yeah,
And now I want to talk about there's
hope and self-reliance. That's those
yeah, you
things.
got to have the tools for the self-reliance, and that's the
Yeah,
problem. If they take away those opportunities, well, they can look at the people and say, well, they didn't take any initiative in
why you
doing
didn't
any
just
of
pull
these things.
yourself up by the
Yeah,
bootstraps?
exactly. Right. It's
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. And people say things like that, oh, there's prisons that have programs and they should be doing better. No, they don't. And the
they don't.
average community member
And the
does not
programs are
understand that.
mandated.
Yeah, they don't know that when they go to voting polls because the news doesn't make it important enough. They don't connect the social economic impact of it, or the fact that what we just read through, the fact that most of the people that are sentenced, and I'm saying most because it is usually young youth
Yeah,
that are being charged before they're even fully
young
developed in the
people.
prefrontal
Oh.
cortex, and then just leaving them there to
Can I
anger,
say
to
two things for
fester.
you?
Yeah, go
Can I
ahead.
say two things for you where it shows you that it's happening in real time? Okay. So right now, okay, so there was a bill that was passed and signed into law. It's called Raise the Age. It was back in like 2019 or
Hmm.
2018, right? It's basically saying, hey, New York State, you cannot try teenagers as adults because of the brain development.
Yeah.
Okay. It's saying, hey, you cannot do this. You cannot have 17, 16-year-olds in prison with adults like that. Just
Yeah,
come
it's
on.
bananas. What
What
are
are
you
we
doing? You're
doing? Why are
training
we
them.
criminalizing teenagers? Okay. And trying them like that. Okay. So it was passed, it was signed into law, it was implemented, all these things. Now it was time to actually allocate the funding to really implement this correctly and do it right. Now what you have is people trying to roll back, raise the age.
Hmm.
Okay. Same when they're trying to roll back bail reform.
Yeah,
Who are the people trying to roll it back? People that benefit off of putting people in prison.
that's exactly right.
It's simple as that. Because now what they're trying to do is say, hey, 16 and 17-year-olds who say you're a 16 and 17-year-old and you have a gun, okay? You will be tried as an adult for having a gun. It's
Hmm.
going to be criminal possession of a firearm, but as an adult,
Yep,
not a 16, 17-year-old.
that's right. I can't own one
So
still.
you can't own one, okay? Now, you're intentionally doing this, okay? Because you're going to go into the areas that's the most poor in New York State, where survival is at the forefront, where it's the hierarchy of needs, okay? So there's going and we're dealing with people who are traumatized through poverty, right? Where it's like, no home, no two-parent household, drug addiction, depression, all these things that come with poverty. Being poor,
That's
being
right.
poor is
Hmm.
not fun, being poor.
No, it's not.
Um,
Not fair.
and then if you're a child and you have an underdeveloped brain because it's developing, so it's
Hmm.
underdeveloped, okay? And you're dealing with all of these stressors and traumas and you're trying your best to deal with it, okay? All it is. You're not making the best decisions. So will you make it as a boy, as a teenage boy growing into a man with dealing with testosterone, dealing with impulsivity? Will you make that type of decision where you'll carry a gun? Most
Most
likely,
likely.
especially if you're in survival mode where
That's
it's
right.
fight, flight, or freeze, right? So now you have this. I look at it as like these people who do these rollbacks, I don't know all of them. I know some of the unions and stuff like that, but I don't know the specific drafters that's like do these rollbacks. Like they really anonymous. Like they don't go to the forefront. Kind of like how I don't be in the forefront, you know.
Yeah.
But they do this right where I see it where they'll look at different impoverished communities, they'll study it, and they say, how can we criminalize their behavior? Okay. Because if we can criminalize their behavior, we can write policies and laws that will then justify and codify us being able to incarcerate them. Okay. Because we could say, hey, with this raise the age amendment here about if you're 16 and you're caught carrying a weapon, even if you don't have a prior conviction, but you're 16 years old, you have a weapon. Okay. We're going to criminalize you and send you to adult prison, which is a state correctional facility. There, by being convicted, you are automatically a slave in the United States based on the 13th Amendment, Section 1 of the 13th Amendment. It says you are a citizen unless you commit a crime where you're now punished to either slavery or involuntary servitude.
Define the slavery.
I'm about to read it to you now. Hold on. Oh, my phone died. Hold on, let me pull it up.
Okay.
Slavery is free labor. Free forced labor. That's slavery. Free forced labor. But let me pull it up for you. The 13th Amendment, Section 1 of the United States Constitution, abolishes slavery and involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for a crime for which a person has been duly convicted. Okay?
Do you know how many people don't even know that exists?
A lot of people, bro. A lot of people don't know that exists. Why do you think I'm not in the country? A lot of people don't know that exists. That's why America always vote against abolishing slavery worldwide. America's the only first world Western nation that votes against it.
Yeah.
It's a reason. Because if you vote for it, you now have to change your constitution or change this part of your constitution because you're practicing slavery.
Yeah, well, we don't like amendments, right?
Bro, yeah, through amendments, through change, or you could just graft that out. You don't even have to have that whole part in there where it says except as punishment for a crime for which a person has been duly convicted. Bro, this is sneaky behavior.
Oh,
the reason
yeah.
why it's sneaky is because I have this in here. You're free. You're free to live your life. Okay. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to study what you're doing, and I'm going to say, okay, he's doing this, this, and this. I'm going to make it illegal. Now, I'm not going to tell you that it's illegal. You won't even know. You know how you're going to find out? When you're getting arrested. That's when you're going to know.
Yeah.
Okay. Because check this out. I tell this to people all the time. How many bills passed this session in New York State, 2025 session?
I have no idea.
Do you know how many bills passed last session?
Nope.
No. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
900 passed in 2024 and 1,200 passed in 2025. I only know about like 7 of them.
I was going to say, I know the ones that affect.
I had the policy and I can articulate it. I can comprehend it. Most people do not know what laws are being enacted.
That's right.
They don't know.
That's right.
Most New Yorkers don't know how many bills were passed.
Yep.
They don't pay attention to that. Why? Because they keep you working, keep you busy, keep you distracted. It's no different than when I'm in Italy, right? One of the things they joke about is the Colosseums. Because the Colosseums is the way, if you give them bread and circus, you can do everything.
Whatever you want to do. Yeah. That's right.
No, you can do it right in front of their face. They won't even know.
Yep. That's exactly right.
So when you look at this, and you can see the whole history of it, the 13th Amendment was put in place in 1865. What was happening in 1865?
Yeah.
So now you have from 1865 to 77, you have the black codes. Okay. That's where it was like, think of it as it's like say you're poor, right? You're poor. If you're Irish, Chinese, it was a lot more than black people, but they did the black codes because they focus on black people the most because you're at the most bottom. So then anybody else that get caught up in it, you just get caught up in it.
Yep.
But they call it the black codes. So they do this. You live in the shanty side of town. right? It's segregated. It's still segregation during that time, right? So you live in the shanty side of town, but you work for the factory. Okay, you're just a worker for the factory. The factory is on the other side of town. Okay, now I'm gonna make a law where I make this town a sundown town, okay? Which basically means if your black ass is walking down this street anytime when the sun is down, so if it's 8 o'clock and you walking down the street to get home, I don't care where you're going, that's vagrancy laws you're violating, that's trespassing laws you're violating, and that's listening laws that you're violating just for walking down the street at night. Okay. I don't give a damn about you coming from the factory. Okay. Now you go to prison for that. Okay. That's what they talk about, the chain gang, convict leasing, all that, right? You can go to prison. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the factory, the boss, the crony capitalist, and I'm going to say, hey, you see how you paying all these poor white people to work in your factory? And you see all these poor white people are unionizing and try to get better pay and they want health care now. These people want health care. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm going to go to that person. I'm going to say, I got all of these convicts. I got all of these inmates that I'll let you have them and you could work them as much as you want. Just give me a baseline contract for it, where you just got to pay me out this set amount and you give it to me as a superintendent of this correctional facility, and I'm going to lease my niggas to you. That's basically how because that's how they talk. You know
people don't know what core craft is.
I'm going to lease them to you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And now you was working at that factory before and you was getting paid. Now you working there and you ain't getting paid at all.
Yep.
And then the white people that was working there, they get pushed out.
Yep.
Okay. Because who's trying to pay you $5
when we got cheaper workers
a day when I could just not pay this person anything?
Yeah.
I'm paying the dude over here who's going to help me keep this going. And that's now I'm able to expand. I can expand my business.
Yeah.
Right. That's all I'm thinking about. I ain't thinking about you.
Absolutely revenue driven.
So now you have this, right? But what do they do? What do they do? The politician is not going to say, yes, we're making these bad deals and we're casting away our community. We don't care about the citizen. They made it about the inmates, bro. That's what the convict league. So you'll have it where the white citizens who's getting forced out of their jobs, they started fighting against the inmates. They would go and raid the company and they would literally try to kill the people who are incarcerated. Because they're like, you taking our jobs. It's no different than today when they say the Mexican is taking my job.
Yep. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, no, that's not what's happening. Don't play yourself. Like, look, a good example of this with the convict leasing is what happened in Tennessee. Okay. It was a situation in Tennessee where the white community in Tennessee that was working at the factory, they started to unionize. And the factory was like, fuck that. You get what I'm saying? It was like, no, you hurting our money. You hurting our bottom dollar.
Yep.
So they leased incarcerated guys from the prison to work there. And there's a whole war, there's a whole battle that happened. The white community formed a militia and everything. And it got so bad that they had to bring the National Guard in. And then the governor came in. The governor that was a part of putting that in place, he lost the election. And then they put a new one in that said, hey, I'm going to fix all of this. And all that stuff. And then guess what? They did it again. And then that whole community that formed a militia and then all the people was living in that town, it never recovered. That community was like, they just destroyed them. They never recovered. If you look at it today, it's just like, it was considered what they talk about when they say it's like the boonies now. It's like middle of nowhere now. But it was a prosperous community that they just destroyed it because people started to unionize and speak up. And, and then they trick people where it's like, you're at the bottom and then you just got to fight against the other person at the bottom.
Yep.
But you don't realize that they laughing at both of y'all.
Yep. That it's really sick because the thing is
it's been going on for centuries.
Yeah. And what you just asked, that big question, it almost, it slapped me in the face because as an advocate for people with disabilities, I know of the laws that affected what I do and what I'm interested in. I had absolutely no idea. Like even when they did the COVID bill.
It gets scarier though, man. You just, the tip of the iceberg. It gets scarier with that 13th Amendment. Because the last sentence is the most crucial piece.
Oh, okay? Of course.
The last sentence I'm going to just go from the comma with convicted and all these things, right? It says this person, okay, with being the property of the United States now, okay, shall exist within the United States or any subject to their jurisdiction. What does that tell you?
Even if you went to Puerto Rico?
Even if it don't matter. If nine look, the United States has 900 military bases in 153 countries. Does every military base have a prison?
Yep.
That the 13th Amendment allows for the United States to have a global reach with incarceration.
Mm-hmm.
Because if
This is
you're in
so
the
discouraging.
jurisdiction, what does it take for you to have United States jurisdiction in another landmass outside of the 50, states?
Yeah.
You have to have a military base or embassy or, like those things that allows for United States jurisdiction.
Yeah.
So you have reached.
Well,
It's
I think for in order
global
for
domination, man.
in order for the average person to be able to be even educated, we'd have to be able to figure out a way to disseminate the information, the facts, the statistics. And
Why do
today,
you think we're on a shoestring budget?
and that's what I mean. The only way that we can do this is to do what I'm doing and what you're doing, man. Getting
Yeah.
it out, getting on these interviews and podcasts and start talking about it. It's when we
Yeah, but
start to
I'm trying to talk
show.
about it to that degree, bro, to be honest with you, because I'm a father, I'm a husband, I
Yep,
want
yep,
to be a grandfather. You know what
yep.
I'm
You want
saying?
to
Like
live life.
I
Yeah.
don't, I'm not trying to be, you know, I get it. Trust me, I get it. But I'm not trying to be no martyr or no like I really want to see my grandchildren.
Yeah,
You get what I'm
yeah.
saying?
Yep.
So that's why I don't speak out like that. Like I'm doing this interview with you off of love because I know you
Yeah.
and I trust you in that degree. So and I want to build with you like that. But the majority of with the things that I accomplish or get done, I try not to speak on it because one, I feel like I lose my blessing as soon as I speak about it.
Mm.
But then two is I don't want to put a bullseye on my back or my children's back because what if they don't get me? They could get my children.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, again, I believe white supremacy, global white supremacy is real. I don't think that it's a boogeyman delusion or anything like that. You see it all the time. You can see it right now with this. Like the 13th Amendment was put in place in 1865. What was also
Yep.
happening in
Yeah.
1865?
So yeah, Civil War, just coming off the
And
end of slavery.
yeah,
Yep.
and then all the laws that preceded, from redlining to dismantling the federal protections during Reconstruction, when unincorporated Black communities was developing, from the welfare state with that being put in place and how that broke up the household because what is one of the requirements for welfare? You can't have the man in the house if he has if he has a conviction.
Mm-hmm.
The majority of Black men were being convicted. They were being hunted and convicted.
I want to
You
break
get what I'm
something
saying? You
down.
see the tricks that they do, man. It's
Yeah.
like,
Oh, I know that, man. I want to break something down that will help
yeah.
illustrate why people again traditionally the black citizens of the United States, we often say, there's no segregation. You can live where you want to live, but economics determine where you live. And now I want to give a little science background on something that works in our brain. It's called the
Oh, the other thing I
reticulating.
wanted to tell you about the brain thing. Sorry, one other thing I wanted to tell you is that to make it where common sense and just for people who may not even connected to the criminal legal system like that and don't know anything about it. If you have kids, most times your kids are on your insurance until they're 26. There's a reason for that.
Yeah.
Also, if you're trying to get a car for your kid and say it's his boy and a male and he has get insurance, his insurance is usually higher, especially under age 26.
Yeah,
It's a
because they
reason for
know
that.
what the brain science
They
I just
know. They
read.
don't want you to know,
That's
but they know.
exactly right. That's exactly right. Well, I want to just explain to the people listening why it seems to be a disproportionate amount of black youth that are being sent to prison. And I'm going to break it down no other way than just science of the brain. There's a part in our brains, all of our brains. It's called the reticulating action system. That system is a group of neurons that are designed to help filter out what is important and filter out or filter in what's important and leave everything else that's not important. When you were talking about growing up on the streets and a person living in a low income household, dad's already been taken away. Money is the objection. We're objective. We got to make money, right? So the way this RAS system works, the reticulating activation system works, is whatever we deem important, our brain will help highlight that thing, whatever it is. So when your son, saw cops, it was already set up in his system, man, that this
Right.
means threat. When
Right.
a kid is growing up in one of those inner city situations, that RAS is going, I need to make money. You take a quick look around, the opportunities aren't there. White businesses aren't growing there. They're not doing those kind of things. That's intentional.
And
And
you're impressionable
secondarily,
in general.
these kids are connecting what's important and looking around at the opportunities. And what opportunities are there? Sell drugs. Man, you can make so much money. You can't believe it. So it's incentivized to sell these drugs because we've given you no other opportunity to work your way out of this deal. Oh, well, they got schools, they got programs. Oh, sure they do, but they're again in this
And if you're
segregated like
hungry,
community of low income,
yeah,
lowly motivated, with no real examples of parental structure, and certainly not the faith or trust of the people that are supposed to protect us.
yeah,
So that happens, and then we send them away. And again, I read that thing in the beginning about our brain doesn't mature till 25. It's in our insurance codes because we know that kids don't make good decisions. Yet you can send them to prison for a 50-year sentence on something they did when they were 17. Dude, I'm a good dude, but I have thought many times about killing a mother. Not a
mhm,
mother, but a person. That thought has rented space in my mind. Fortunately, I lived in a situation that there were other options, right?
right.
But for those that aren't, again, that RAS lights up and says, here's your solution, man.
And
Take
you
this
and you
dude
gotta
out,
think of it.
eliminate
You
the.
gotta think of it with that going off, okay. But you also have a person who went through adverse childhood experiences, and I don't think people really put
Absolutely.
a lot of ownership onto that, or like put a lot of seriousness to that. Now, if you're starving, I don't know if you've ever been starving before. I don't know if you've
I
ever been
have
like
been homeless and starving.
right, homeless and starving. So it's like, look, I'm just trying
Five
to eat.
five of my charges were because I stole food and money
You get what I'm saying?
from
So it's
stores.
like, so when they talk about like a kid stealing, like I seen the one case where a kid was stealing and it was all like groceries. It's like, come on, man.
Yeah, yeah. Come on,
Like
man. He's not
you ain't like
stealing
he's stealing like a
radios.
Louis Vuitton bag or something, or
Yeah,
he's stealing
exactly.
like a Brinks truck or something. We talking about bread, milk, laundry detergent. Like, come on, what are you talking about? So and again, like if you're starving, it goes back to hierarchy of needs. If you're starving, if you're thirsty, your only thing is trying to feel
Survive.
that hunger. You're not like thinking about like, oh, I should do. No, get in that situation. That's why I say you got to feel that. Like if you ever felt it, you will understand
Do you
where
know
somebody's
the
coming from.
current brain science tells us right now? There's all these people about manifest this and think that
Oh,
and grow
that's pretty
blah
much
blah blah blah. It's all bullshit. You know what your brain is designed to do? Not die.
survive. Yeah,
Not
survive.
die.
Yep.
That's it. It just, hey, you were safe yesterday doing what you did. Do that again because that'll
You're
keep
gonna
you
repeat
safe.
that.
Yeah. And that's how it works. And when people start to realize that there's ways that we can hijack that system of thinking and start to use what is in every brain, that reticulating activation system, when they start seeing possibilities, they can make substantive choices that say, okay, well, I could go sell drugs, but they're offering this opportunity
Right.
for me to get up out of the city by taking on a career I'm interested in. We've removed that
But even check this
opportunity.
out. Even check this out. Because even when they do that, right? Fentanyl is not made in America. You know what I'm saying?
I have
Cocaine
no
ain't made in
idea.
America. Fentanyl is made in China.
Yeah, I know Coke's
The
not made
majority of
here.
fentanyl is made in China.
Hmm.
Okay. Cocaine is not natural to America. Uh, Heroin is not like poppy seeds, poppy
Poppy
plants. That's
seeds,
not.
coca
That's
plants.
not.
Yeah,
None of that stuff is natural to America.
right.
Okay. But somehow, some way, it always make it to the poorest zip codes in America.
Yep.
Okay. And it's shipped in mass. And they try to say, oh, it's just the cartels, or they say, oh, it's the Taliban, but I know freight ships have to be involved in this. Okay,
Absolutely.
freight shipping has to be involved. That means ports, United States ports have to be involved. Mass distribution, okay, mass transportation is involved in drugs getting to the corners.
That's
Okay,
right, man.
So it's like when they always focus on the drug dealer on the corner and all that stuff, or the knucklehead kid that's selling a pack and all these things, they not worrying about the Wall Street broker who's monitoring the freight shipments. They're not worrying about how even the dock workers that's involved. They're not worrying about the foreign nationals that's involved with packaging it. They're
Yeah,
not
yeah.
worrying with
Nah, it's
military branches that are
incentivized, man.
involved. Like you get what I'm saying? Like
And to
this
put
is
smoke and mirrors up is one of the things they're doing. You look at Venezuela, what's happening in Venezuela. Trump's got people, our military out there shooting without questions, just taking out boats that are shooting across the thing. Now, they may have drugs on them, and that's the point. But this is so much bigger than that. We sensationalize that one story. Look what we're doing to fight this. Now we're going to go after Venezuela. I ain't even heard a peep about Venezuela before at all. Never even heard about it. And now it's like this. Oh, you don't think we're doing enough on drugs? Watch this. We're gonna take out this 20-foot boat with missiles. You know what I mean? And they were
right,
smuggling. Now we're gonna go to
right.
war with Venezuela. I mean,
Look,
dude, we know
if
where the problem
anybody
is and ain't doing shit about it.
like
And the
people
people,
don't believe, like people don't believe about this stuff, you know, because they think it's too far fetched or it's conspiracy and all
oh
these
God,
things,
it's so
you
sick when
know.
I hear that. Oh, it's
But
conspiracy theory,
the
dude.
current president of
Uh,
Syria, the current president of Syria, before he took over Syria, was incarcerated in the United States.
mm,
He was
interesting.
in prison in the United States for terrorism. This
Yeah.
is a person who's a former Al Qaeda member. Okay, he's a terrorist, killed American soldiers. He's in an American prison. After being released from American prison, he becomes president of Syria. Come
Yeah,
on,
that ain't by
think about
accident,
this.
man. That ain't by accident.
These things through. So
Hey,
I
here's a
look
good
at it, all of
example.
that. I look at all of that, and I'm just want to narrow it back down. Okay, I look at all that, and I just want to try because I'm trying to tell people like how they play in your face, like they just play in front of you,
Yep.
and I want to bring it back because again, other countries, and let's just focus on the West. We ain't even gonna focus on BRICS nations or the East. We're not just the West, other Western nations.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they don't have the level of drug addiction America has. They don't have the level of criminality America has. They don't have the incarceration rates America has. They don't have the homicide rates America has. They don't have the robbery rates America has. These countries are just as diverse, if not more, than America. Okay. Like I live in Milan, it's diverse. And when I was talking to people like other Italians about like, yo, I didn't expect it to be this diverse. Okay. I didn't expect to see Filipinos, Senegalese, like everybody, almost everybody's here. And they said, don't you know that Italy, Rome, was New York City before New York City was even it's like, don't you think people was already coming here, migrating here, doing
Yeah,
like it's
yeah.
like it was already mixing. It was like there was already merchants here, trade routes, all this stuff. People was coming and settling here. This not new. It's just new with America. But like other when you go to the actual cities in these other countries, it's super diverse.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's actually very narcissistic to think we got it figured out as such a young country
Right.
when this country's been there thousands. Yeah, I mean, literally the rise and fall of Rome. We talk about that all the time, right? And history will repeat
Yeah.
itself. Well, maybe that's why they got some of the things figured out that we don't hear because we're young,
Exactly. That's what they
brash,
talk about as well.
arrogant. Yeah, I want to
But
bring
they
it
don't have
back.
the laws that America has.
Yeah,
That's
well,
that's the difference. America's laws criminalizes its citizens because the
yeah.
whole thing is free labor, free cheap
Mhm.
labor. They never wanted to move away from that.
Well,
That's
that
why when
and
it's done,
yeah, it's I don't have a fix for all of that, and like you said, I'm not going to take up the torch and spend my life in pendulums full of angst to to
yeah.
to fight through this. I just want to bring the awareness, and I want people to start to understand something. Everything that we
Yeah.
just outlined, who pays
Mhm.
for it? Who pays financially to support these things that are happening right now in the United States? Where's that money coming from?
It's coming from our labor.
That's right. It's coming from our taxes, our
Yeah.
labors, and decisions that are made without our knowledge. Now, I just want to bring up this is a diversion from what we're talking about, but it absolutely underscores what we're talking about.
It's all connected.
Did you see the movie as just was put out? It's called The Age of Disclosure.
No.
It's a documentary. So this is crazy. It's a documentary that captures the congressional hearings that happened with 32 top currently working, currently high ranked legislators, congressmen, the industrial complex for wars, all these kinds of these high level people saying UFOs are real. We've been back engineering them. We've kept this from you. We use disinformation to quell the curiosity because we wanted to weaponize this stuff. These are actual commanders,
Yeah.
5-star generals that are currently serving, yet they are standing there taking this time out to say that we have spent trillions of dollars in doing this, researching it and keeping it quiet by shaming everybody who has any input on it, telling them they're crazy, ruining their
Yeah.
careers. Now we're admitting it right now. You can look it up on CIA.gov, folks. Check it out. You will
How
see
many
that
of
we've
those
been
people that
hiding
they,
this shit
yeah.
forever. And only now, some 90 years later, are we admitting that they've been lying the entire time. But you don't think that anything that we're talking about today about the
Yeah.
incentive for keeping
Watch 50
inmates.
years from now, they're gonna
Yeah, I
tell, they're
mean,
gonna
come on,
look
man.
at it and
This
say
is
they
it's
they
obvious. Argue we cannot trust the people that are in power. And the bummer of this is this is why I step back, Garrett. I thought about this a long time ago. You think, as a community member, as somebody that votes and pays taxes, that you have input on this stuff, but you can only have input on the things that you're informed about. We have people that are making decisions for us and giving us what we can fight about while distracting us with all this other ridiculous shit. But the bottom
already
line
tell you
is
don't have no weapons.
our prisons are full. Give us the stats right now. What do we pay? It's almost 70 million or 70
Yeah,
billion.
so it's
What
70
is it?
billion. No, it's not
No, no,
70
for
billion. It's
all right.
3
So for a
billion
yearly to
for a
keep
year.
an
It's 3
income,
billion a year to keep the prisons operational with 33 plus thousand people.
right, and it's $69,000 per inmate to
Yeah,
keep them housed. Now,
yeah.
one of the
About
things that they
think about it,
sold
about $1,800 a day
one of the
per
things
person.
that they sold, which ties into what you were talking about, how they're using slave labor out of this. People think that, oh, it's just conjecture and fantasy because he's a black guy.
No,
No, bullshit. I'm a white guy, and I can tell you, we worked in Corecraft. Corecraft is a
yep.
prison manufacturing company that sells the office equipment to all of the major corporate structures,
And state
license plates.
and county buildings as well.
That's right. And they
So
enter into
yeah,
a contract, but those inmates are only making from that work about 80 cents a day.
yeah,
80 cents a day. When I was
yeah.
working and I was programming in the jail, I became a well, it's not the same anymore. But when I would go to program, work the kitchen, man, I was making 43 cents a day, which
And how
you
much
would.
does a summer sausage cost?
Yeah. But they're
You know what I'm
saying,
saying?
but they're saying they're doing this because they want us to pay for our own prison time,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
crazy.
But
But again,
then you order
nobody's listening.
commissary in
Yeah,
one
man.
item on commissary is like $7
Yeah, and
for a
nobody's
snack.
listening
You know?
because it doesn't affect them indirectly. And I don't
Yeah.
expect our conversation right now to fire up everybody, but it should make you look. It should make you go, "Hey, man, that ain't right. $69,000 a year
At least at the
to keep
minimum,
somebody incarcerated, but you're only paying me 55,000 to help serve the populations you let go."
that's what I'm saying. Like at the minimum, if a person is not directly connected to this, right? At the minimum, and I always try to tell people that, especially because you pay taxes, the minimum you should feel like a sucker. You know what I mean? At the
Yeah.
minimum, like,
Yep.
damn, I'm giving my money to this person to do this.
Yep.
Like,
Just over broke is
think
what
about
job
it.
stands for. Job is
Think about what
just.
you're wasting your money on. You
Yep.
know?
Yep, that's exactly right, man. Now, look, I want to get us back into this, and
Yeah,
by just asking a couple things, if you could break this down, there's a couple of acts that you guys are proposing right now. One of them being the Marvin Mayfield Act. Can you describe that?
yeah.
And what's that about?
Yeah, so the Marvin Mayfield Act is essentially to eliminate mandatory minimums with removing the 2 and 3 strike guidance as well as the mandatory minimum guidelines. That was put in place in the 70s. It wasn't like New York State was doing this, forever type of
Mm-hmm.
thing. It was really put in place again to accelerate crime or criminality, accelerate the mass incarceration. It came after Vietnam War. Within my family and my community, as in the black people, the way we look at it is it was punishment for a lot of black people abstaining from joining the Vietnam War, and
Mm-hmm.
it was like criminalizing them. for that, or punishing, because you're gonna get punished for doing that. Anytime you object, right, you're gonna get punished. Got to make an example out of you. So the Marvin Mayfield Act, and we named it after one of our mentors. He was a mentor of mine, Marvin Mayfield, who he passed away of natural causes, but he passed away in the fight. But he was a person who was a part of the creation of the Communities Not Cages campaign. He's a part of the idea with how to reform mandatory minimum guidelines, or really just eradicate it and shift power back to the judges,
Hmm.
where you know how it's supposed to be, right? The
Yeah,
DAs
well,
shouldn't have
just
any
like that
power.
opening. I mean, we've got judges
Yeah.
that wish they didn't have to sentence and that their hands are tied. And then
Mhm.
there's also the Second Look Act.
The second look act is to undo the harms that was caused by these type of draconian laws, like the war on drugs with the Rockefeller drug law, during that era. But then also the 94 crime bill, the federal crime bill, where it incentivized states to have a version of their own, right? So like New York State has the truth in sentencing laws. So what the Second Look Act will do is say like, hey, look at all these people who have like at 17 got 62 to life, or this person got 130 years just for being with the group of something that happened, right? So it's the to give all of these people a chance to show how they were excessively sentenced. It's not saying that this person wasn't guilty.
Right.
uh,
Yeah.
it's saying that they were over sentenced for what they're being convicted of. you
Yeah.
know
And that is
so
just,
it's to undo that. And again, everything that all these bills have woven into them is self-reliance. Okay,
mhm.
so the self-reliance factor that you can see in the Second Look Act is a person can apply for a second look. In that application, they have to show their transformation, like how they transform while they were in prison, right? While they're incarcerated. Show their understanding of the instant offense in the situation, but then also show how when they were incarcerated, what the laws were at that time.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, and how they change. Because then they get and it allows for a separate judge other than their original sentencing judge, because that judge might no longer be alive, may no longer be a sitting judge, or may not want to they might want to say, I got that one wrong.
Yeah.
The judge don't
Oh,
want
they're not
to
gonna.
say
But you know what? Drug reform
it.
is another one that should make a point. There are many
Yep.
people. I have a friend that was sentenced to 70 years for crossing state lines with an enormous amount of marijuana, right?
Mhm.
Now we legalize marijuana and
Right. That's
encourage,
where the marijuana regulation
yeah, and we
comes
encourage this
about.
taxation of this. And now they are contributing members of community that we are happy they're there because a majority of the United States will dabble in the reefer. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so all we had to do is say, okay, we think this is harsh, and we let go. And but now look how many people just got out. My friend did say he was sentenced to 70 years. He did 11. He's now sitting on the side of a bank having a barbecue with his girlfriend. You know what I mean? The law changed, and now their appropriation of how he was
Yeah.
treated was
You
upheld.
see how the 13th
Right,
Amendment
because
works.
when it works with what we're, it's disgusting, and we're not doing. So there's also
Prohibition
the
is a good example too, man. Like
Yep.
prohibition. If you had a bottle of whiskey in your back pocket, you going to prison.
Oh yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
now you can open up a bar and it's all good.
That's right. Yeah, and you're a
It's
upstanding member of society. You're creating jobs. You're
right.
keeping revenue in the city. I mean, again, it's all about perspective and how we look at it. But the perspective is chased or created by what we talked about at the beginning of the hour, and that was that there are about three actual people who own every news outlet and what will be told and sold. So we can only know what we're allowed to be told. We can only argue what they give us to argue
Right.
about. Most
Most
of
people
us
don't read
don't
the
have it.
Constitution though
No,
either.
and we don't have an
Most people
idea.
don't read the Constitution. I have the
Yep.
Constitution in my house.
Even if they did, they
It's
wouldn't
required
understand,
reading.
yeah, how
It's
to implement.
well, you can understand it because
I
it's
mean, how to
really
implement
straightforward.
it, how to implement it,
It's
how to actually do something with it.
the
Be-
U.S. Constitution.
Because it's so it's so I want to say like you could talk to a younger student or a kid or inner city youth that's going to prison about the Constitution and what needs to change, but
Yeah.
the ability to make any change within that seems above them. So my point is that it may be there, but it doesn't seem approachable, like we could do anything about it.
It is approachable, and it is things you could do about it because people were doing things about it. That's why you have like the 19th Amendment, for example, where women how are able to vote,
Vote now,
right?
yeah,
So it's
right.
it's just that generations before was reading the Constitution.
Yeah.
So they were able to make the
Now we're
changes.
just happy,
But now it's
man.
not enough people reading it anymore. Like they don't read it no more.
Yeah.
It's just not a thing. It's boring. It's
Yeah.
boring.
Until it affects you. And then when it affects you, it's the
Yeah.
most important damn thing you've ever read.
Yeah. And
And
people
that's
back
the
then were
thing.
way more oppressed,
That's the
like
thing
across
about
the board.
perspective. If you can tie this all into the realization that we could not only systemically save money,
Hmm.
reduce mental health and harm that happens even in the
Hmm.
segregated communities.
Hmm.
If you can show the incentive to undo any of this, well, then you're going to get the support because as
Yeah.
taxpayers see it, oh shit, we could save money on this. It's
Yeah.
69,000 for 1 year for an inmate to stay in, and that's 30 years times that by 69,000, blah blah, at which that rate goes up. You start to realize that we're spending money that nobody knows about. Yet my
Right.
school, I have to still buy books for my student. I have to buy
Yeah.
books for my kid. What do I pay state taxes? The another sham wow kind of thing they did was with the New York State Lottery. Do you know how much money was
Yeah.
supposed to be given to education? Go to New York City and go to one of the PS schools, and you tell me that any of the billions of dollars that they create annually is being used for that. It's not. But you know what else? Nobody knows it. And nobody knows how to argue it, where to go to bring it up. It's been discouraged. I mean, look,
Most people
the,
don't even know who their legislators
I
are, man.
know, man. So,
It's just what
yeah.
it is. And I don't blame people for that. I really
Yeah,
don't.
yeah,
I
yeah,
really
yeah.
don't. Because like again, we talk about like brain computing power and development and all these things, right? It's only 24 hours in a day. Okay. If you're working, most people who can do something about it, they got them distracted with working a lot.
Yep,
Okay. So if you're working, okay, and let's just say you're just working, the regular work, where it's 40 hours a week, 80-hour pay period cycles, stuff like that, right? So you go to work 8 hours, you got to get ready for work, right? You got to make sure you eat something healthy and all these things, okay? So we're talking about 2 hours before work, and then maybe the transition time back home and whatever you got to get settled and all these things. That's now 12 hours dedicated to just the activity around work.
yep.
Wait, work hours included, right?
Feeding the
But
system.
then now, if you want to, if for human development again, if you want to sleep, you want to have the best brain computing power, you got to sleep at least 6 to 8 hours, right? Anywhere between 6 to 8. So let's add six just to be fair for the 24 hours, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So now you're at 18 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that means the other 6 hours have to be dedicated to something within your community, something within your family, your own personal time. You might just want to just breathe and not talk to nobody for a while, stuff
Yeah.
like that. How you going to divide that up?
Yep.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you always are playing catch up. You're always in a phase of playing catch up. And then by the time you catch up to what they're doing now, they have a whole nother set of things that you didn't even know about that you got to
Oh
catch up
man, I'm
on,
glad to be
right?
talking with
That's
you.
like when they talk about in the military, when they say if they're showing you their weapons, that means the real weapons they
That's right. Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
don't even know about it. You're
Oh,
just knowing about the stuff that's out of date
yeah.
now. Um, but the way it connects to what we're doing, okay, just trying to bring it all together, right? Because it's like it's a lot.
Yeah,
I tell
it's so
people
much.
like
So much.
pick
Yep.
your battle, choose your poison.
Right for
It's like
right.
you're gonna leave a carbon footprint no matter what you try to do, right? No
Right.
matter how much you try to scale it down, the shampoo you use is gonna vary
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah,
ton,
yeah. Yep.
right? So the way I'm saying it with this is that focus on policies that help people help themselves, right? Help people help themselves. Teach a person how to fish. I'm very spiritual. I'm a Christian. Not a, Bible thumping Christian. I'm not going to throw that in your face type of Christian. I'm a very traditional Christian, even going past like the Protestant stuff. Like I was born into a Baptist Christian family, but I understand Christianity has been co-opted, hijacked, a lot of things been going on with it, right? But with that, I try to keep to the fundamental values, right? So it's like, when I was naked, you clothed me. When I was hungry, you fed me. When I was in prison, you comforted me and you visited me, right? So those type of things, right? Now, my whole thing with this is that these three bills, with the Earned Time Act, the Second Look Act, and the Marvin Mayfield Act, what you will see that they have in there is people are earning their time. Okay. People are earning their opportunities. Yeah, we could say the system did this, all that. We could say all of that. But at the end of the day, the individual still need to recover from whatever it is that they were dealing with, right? Just like with you, right? You still need to go through your path. You still need to walk your journey. You still need your opportunities to grow.
Hmm.
And you had to do it for yourself. Nobody can make you do it. You get
That's
what I'm
right.
saying? So it's the same thing in this. And all we're doing, instead of like penalizing people, because it's supposed to be for correction, it's supposed to be for rehabilitation, instead of penalizing them and punishing them, how about we help them help themselves? And that's
Right.
what it's doing. But with the Earned Time Act, it actually mandates that rehabilitative, vocational, and educational programs are inside of the prisons, where a person is actually helping themselves get better, do better. So when they're
That's
out, they're
right.
not, And then think about this, and we explained the other Marvin Mayfield in the Second Look Act. So I just want to say this too about the three bills. Think about this, okay? People always talk about public safety, right? And that's why they don't want to, they're letting out all the criminals. It's going to be a public safety issue, right? That's usually the rhetoric that goes around with this, okay? Let's follow logic on this. If a person is a problem or issue to society where they are engaging in criminal behavior, and we know the number one driver of crime is poverty. Okay, so it's a poor person engaging in criminal behavior. We lock them up, give them no services, just lock them up. If they become non-compliant while they're locked up, we put them in solitary confinement, which is another form of trauma and torture. Okay, we're doing this to this person. They get out. Within 6 months, they commit a crime. If you commit a crime, is there most likely a victim on the end of that crime? No, have to lead in death or an assault. It could be any crime. It most likely is a victim on the other side of that crime. Okay. How did you fix public safety? How did you do anything to help address public safety? Because that don't address public safety.
No.
You get what I'm saying? You're saying this person needs to be locked away because they're an issue of public safety. Majority of people who are incarcerated do not have life without the possibility of parole, which means they got 999 years of virtual death, basically. Okay. The majority of people who are incarcerated at that 33,000 do not have that sentence. So that means they have a release date. It means they're coming home. If you want this person coming home and doing better, you need to do it now while they're incarcerated. You don't wait till they get back out in the community. You got to
That's
help them.
exactly right.
So you're creating potential victims by not addressing this issue.
Oh, that's beautifully put, Garrett.
You
Thank you
get what
so
I'm
much
saying,
for that.
man?
Yeah,
It's so
absolutely.
bizarre the way
It
they do
seems like
that.
a common sense thing, but again, we're
So
so
common.
distractible. Before we get out of here, I want to share a story with you in particular because I think it just kind of parallels everything that you've said and we're talking about. I learned in one story. When I was 18, I had only been in the prison system for a year. Before that, I was in county jails, nothing like Elmira State Penitentiary, maximum security. I had no family. I had no friends. I had nobody coming up to visit me. I decide I'm going to kill myself. I go to hang myself. I get banged out. They take me to the SHU. I then end up in a special observation unit for mental health. I ended up meeting a counselor there, and that counselor told me, he just kind of, was such a perfect guy, which was so uncharacteristic of the people I had worked with in the prison systems before. They tend to hire from the bottom of the barrel. But this young guy looked at me one day and said, "Dude, look, you're going to be out in a couple of years. I mean, you got 80 years in front of you. What the hell are you doing? What is it that you're passionate about? He gives me this whole spiel. There was nothing in me that saw that there was any reason to believe I could have a passion, right? Anyways, after a little bit, a couple of weeks of going back and forth to him, I'm like, I don't know, man. I come up with helping people in music. That's what I'm passionate about. He's like, perfect. You can use that right now. Even in jail, you're going to find an opportunity if you just keep it in the forefront of your brain every day you wake up and think about it, right? And just let your day roll. So I'm locked down 23 hours a day, right? We got half hour rec, half hour grub time, and boom, back into the cell. So when it comes to Sunday church, man, even if I wasn't religious, I was going, and I went to a Baptist church. I get there, man, and I'm just like blown away. This black dude is singing, right? And he's giving me goosebumps off the back of my neck. My passion had always been music. I just didn't know how to do anything about it. As soon as I hear this guy singing like this, I'm like, holy shit, he's so amazing. And then it hits me what this counselor says. Keep it in the forefront of their mind. You're going to see opportunities to plug into it.
Yeah.
So I could
Right.
not wait, dude. As soon as this guy was done singing, church was over, I come real fast walking at him, right? And his first response, I'll never forget this. He steps back. He's like, what's up, white boy? Like I was coming at him hard, right? So I was like, no, man, listen, hey,
You're
man.
too giddy. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, I wasn't giddy. I just so driven to get over to tell him, yo, dude, you are amazing, man. So I'm giving him it. I'm just like, holy shit. How do you learn to sing like this? I mean, you got a gift, but in that moment, I watched that dude go from what's up, white boy, to take a step towards me. His shoulders came
Yeah.
down and he said, yo, you want to sing, man? I was like, yeah, dude, but I'll do anything. And I realized as I was talking to him, his shoulders started to relax. He took a step for me. Towards me. I humanized that man by validating him. And in an instant, I turned him from inmate to R&B singer. And in that moment, just like that, it didn't matter that I was white and he was black, and his boys are on the side going, why are you talking to that motherfucker? You know what I'm saying? And then that dude was jogging with me. He's jogging with me the next day around the rec yard doing vocal exercises. The reason I tell this story is this. When I walked up to him, everything we have preconceived ideas happened, right? Here comes a white boy. He's separate from me. This ain't our clique. We don't do this, blah, blah, blah. But the minute that I saw him as a man and I saw his potential and I saw who he was and what he was capable of, it removed all of that shit.
Yeah.
I got along with everybody in that prison system while I was there and had very little problems because I looked at the human and saw the potential.
Yeah.
That's a
And
gift we can all use.
Like if you don't cause no problems, if you yeah, of course you're not being a punk, but
Yeah. Yep.
usually you won't get no problems, especially if you're not a gambler,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
That's
But
for
I
sure.
want to say this too, because I just want to clarify this, because sometimes this happens for me when I say things about like white supremacy. Okay. So I know this from experience that people butt get tight when I talk about white supremacy. Okay. Like they start to clinch up.
That's what my show's about. Make them tight. Go ahead, man.
Right. So I
Gets
just
us
want to say
talking.
this. When I talk about white supremacy, I'm not talking about all white people.
I know.
Okay. Because there's a lot of white people who are used as cannon fodder without realizing it by white supremacists. Okay. I'm talking about white supremacists. I'm talking about the people that's in control and have the power to actually do these things.
Yep.
Okay. So they're the ones who set classism the way it is, set the socioeconomic system the way it is. And white people who go through it, right, are poor white people that's not in that inner circle. And poor can be you make less than $130,000 a year. Like that could be poor. Like poor is really relative.
Yep.
Okay. So, it's just that you don't have the means or the ways to do these things, and you're not connected to the right people, the right white people as a white person. So, and that's a part of the psyop. It's to keep, it's like that. It's really just like, Lyndon B. Johnson said it, where it's like, keep the white person distracted, the poor white person distracted and thinking they got a little bit better than the next poorest black person, or even a rich black person, just think they got it better than them, and they'll never focus on us. So when you say that, right, when I'm quoting him and he say us, not focus on us, who is the us?
Yep. Yeah. Now, I want to say I agree. I see your perspective. But I've met a lot of white poor that went through and still are victims of the very same the judicial system that you speak of. It's not just
white sacrifice.
Yeah, it's not just black versus white. It really is been monetized, incentivized because it's revenue driven. The circumstance is what's determining this now. It may have began that way.
It's more sensational when you use black people.
Yeah,
like it's more, it could get more eyes on it. It could get all these things on it. So it's like, I look at it as like, if you look at America as a totem pole, okay, the dirt is Native Americans. Okay. Native Americans got it way worse than black people. Okay. The dirt is Native Americans. That bottom piece of the totem pole is black people. And then you have Latin or Hispanic people, then you have I would actually say you have poor Latin, or not poor Latin, excuse me, poor Asian, and then After poor Asian, you have poor white. Okay. Then you have white, okay, which is like European white, that type of white. Then you have Jewish. Then you have Anglo-Saxon white, which is the white. Like that's the founding white of America, right? The
Yeah.
white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. So when you look at it from that at that type of scale, you can see how these things start to happen. You can see, okay, why so many black people that's incarcerated? They're the easiest to get,
Yeah,
easiest
yeah.
pickings.
Dude,
And who's
when
gonna
it
fight
comes
them?
to revenue, it doesn't matter. If they could figure out a way to only incarcerate white men between 25 and 50 and there was an incentive, you'd see those prisons fill up with white people between 25 and 50. You are the easiest group if you're stuck in the middle of a shit city with
How you gonna
infrastructure
fight
that's
them?
falling down. Where are you going to get the ability to move forward? Now, I know
And
we could
again,
talk
this,
about
this is
this.
the last thing. This is all I know we're gonna talk too much,
Oh,
but
yeah, yeah.
I just want to say this one last thing. Um, the reason why I say a lot of people are on the chopping block and they don't realize it is because if you want to successfully fight a legal case in America, one, you're gonna need at least $250,000 if you want to do it right
For
without
sure.
having no type of conviction or parole or probation or you pay this fine that you just done. You beat it. You don't have
Yep.
to do nothing from it. Okay, so one, you're gonna need about $250,000. Two is you need to be able to understand and comprehend the law because to a level where you can really navigate it because the law requires a grade 14 reading comprehension level.
Yeah.
Grade 14, which means at least you completed your sophomore year of college or you got an associate's degree type of equivalency, right? And you didn't just skate through, but you
Hmm.
actually can have you actually have a level 14 reading comprehension, understanding of the law. Like you gotta have to have that to have the understanding of the law. The average American, and this is they already proved this stuff that's already out
Yeah.
there. I'm just seeing what they done said. The average American has an eighth grade
I was
reading
going to
level.
say eighth, ninth grade level. Yep. Yep.
How you gonna win?
Not only that, when I was in Elmira, dude, the law library used to be filled with dudes that had their shit together. Boy, they really knew what they were doing. But just before I left, there was a huge uprising with a group of those folks who were saying, "Yo, man, these law books that you give us to study are outdated. The laws that are relevant to our cases, we need these law books. Ah, well, we can't afford that. It's not in the budget. So, but you can have access to this law library of antiquated laws that are in the
That
books
don't even apply
that
anymore.
don't even apply. But again, nobody's looking, man. So it's easy to
Nobody's
get over.
looking.
So look, I think the biggest thing that Communities Not Cages can really benefit the community with is give them the information, the resources, and the understanding of how it financially connects to each of their daily living. Because other than that, nobody cares, man. That's the bottom
Yeah, I
line. They
mean, New
didn't
York
care
is losing
when
a
my
lot of
white ass
money.
was in there. They certainly didn't care when you was in there because we were out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
Now, when we look at $69,000 a day to keep one inmate in jail, and then we think, how
No,
much
it's
would it
eighteen
cost?
hundred dollars. It's $1,800 a day to keep
Oh no,
one.
69,000 a year. So what I was going to say is if we even took a quarter of that and used it to actually lift up the community, to incentivize, to build up these communities so that they actually had places where white folk want to come and shop,
Right.
put some of that money in there. When people can see the connection, that's when
They
we're going to
do
see the
build them up.
change.
They do build them up, but they build them up without black people in it. It's called gentrification.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
saw that too,
that's
man. I saw it. I don't want to divert too much because I could tell you, me and you could have a lot of discussions on this. And
I know we're gonna keep going. My fault.
I'm not on the mindset that it is all black, even though I do see it is proportionately. I
Yeah.
mean, 90% of the inmates are black individuals or
And
non-white, I
like I
should
said, the
say.
reason for that is the majority of people who are poor
Yep,
are black.
that's
And the
right.
why they're poor because of the laws that's been in place since slavery, and then it's never
Yeah,
stopped.
but
Like
but
slavery never stopped. It just transitioned, but it didn't stop. Like that's the whole thing. I really want people to know, even beyond the bills, okay? Because the bills are important for New York State, but slavery is happening in the United States as we currently speak, not just in New York, okay? Because the 13th Amendment applies everywhere. And I just want people to understand that slavery, the practice of slavery, okay, the intention of it, it never stopped. So, like my
it
third
just
great
went behind the
grandfather,
door.
yeah, It just went, it changed the mask. It just like, oh, put this one on. Okay. My Thrice's great grandfather fought in the Civil War. Okay. Excuse me. Yeah. He fought in the Civil War. Okay. He fought at the Battle of Bunker Hill, Alabama. He was with the 2nd Regiment in Louisiana, the infantry for the Union piece of Louisiana. Okay. He fought there, fought in Texas, went back to Louisiana, started an unincorporated community, participated in the St. Bernard massacres where Confederates in Klan, which is, the militia, but they was the Klan, they was calling themselves the Klan, KKK, but they was a militia. They was fighting against Black people who was starting their own communities post Civil War during the Reconstruction era.
That's right.
Okay. So I don't want people to people need to understand, if you, like, my ancestors fought in the Civil War. Okay. So I'm looking at the 13th Amendment and I look at that as like, that's a slap in the face to anybody that fought in the Civil War, that fought for freedom. If you fought for freedom, if you fought for slavery, then hey, it's not a slap in the face because you still got what you wanted. But it's like, for the people that's like, if you're, if your dad was a Yankee or your grandfather or your great grandfather was a Yankee, this goes against everything that your family even fought against. They fought for it because they kept it going.
Yep.
They kept it going. They tricked everybody. They kept it going. They never stopped this. And it's easy to see. It's really easy to see. If you go in without a bias, go in as a person that's objective, that's just trying to, like, the way you would go in when you're trying to learn about the Incan or the Mayan Empire, right?
Yeah,
the same way. Just go in.
There's a lot of declassified information right now that speaks to exactly this right now. You can literally go to CIA.gov. You can go to a lot of .gov sites where declassified information about how these laws happened, who are the players, what were the reasons. You can read it now, but no, most people won't. It takes, it's too much time. It's too much distraction from there. Like you said, they got 6 hours to make family time.
It makes you want to have to do something about it, and people ain't trying to.
Yeah, no. I mean, it seems bigger, and I think really here's the solution. So, what is the best way to if somebody wants to jump on the board of this, how can they take action and join the cause with you all?
Well, we have a few ways they could do it. One, we have a take action tool on our website. A person can be able to contact.
What's your website if you want to give that? Speak that.
Communities Not Cages NY.org.
Okay.
And then we have a take action tool as well. Like it's a bit.ly link.
I signed up for that.
Right. So it's bit.ly/ all capital CNCNY.
Okay.
And that'll take them directly to a take action tool as well. We want people to contact their legislator, contact their senator, contact their assembly member, contact the governor, contact Commissioner Martuscello, because he wants to put maritime programs, and he talks about that as well. He wants to put maritime programs in the facilities, and he catch flack from Night Scopa for that, because it's like, you messing with our jobs, you messing with the way we make money. Like it's that. It's not do the right thing simply because it's the right thing to do. You get what I'm saying? It's do the right thing if it's going to make money for us.
Yeah, that's the fact. Yep.
So that's what we're trying to do as well. We're trying to show how it saves money. And it has it where now, instead of spending money on this wasteful type of thing in New York State, that money could be allocated towards more positive or constructive things like New York's infrastructure, right?
The
things that help us, help each other. So is that we also have an advocacy day on January 26th. My role as a statewide organizer, I try to make sure that people can have everything that they need to be able to lobby, to be able to advocate, to be able to speak towards the issues in their community, and also the state policy. So I do pretty much set the stage for everyone, like build the platform out. They don't have to pay for transportation. They don't have to pay for food that day. They don't even have to contact their legislator to schedule a lobby meeting. Have everything set for them. All you have to do is show up. Really, that's all you have to do. Sign up and show up. It's January 26th. Person can register for that. We have a bit.ly link for that. It's bit.ly/J lowercase an. Oh, excuse me. Capital CNC, capital J, lowercase an, then 26. So bit.ly/CNC Jan 26.
All right. And for the folks listening, I'm going to be putting these in the link under this episode. You'll find it at Spotify, iHeartRadio, all the podcasty places. Just look up the Empower Hour with Don Wyckoff. When you find this
Can I say one
show,
more thing?
look to the links to get in contact with Garrett, his organization, and some of the links that he's talking about for forward
And I'm
movement.
an open book. Anybody can reach out to me, man.
Yeah.
The last thing I just want to say for folks who are like politically savvy, you know, I'm not trying to assume everybody just don't know what's going on. Just to let you guys know the bills with where they are. So we are out of committee with these bills, which is an important step within the legislator. The legislator is only 6 months out the year. So yeah. Hey. They're only open and active 6 months out the year. And then, so with that, we're with the bills, we're at 29 Senate co-sponsors for the Marvin Mayfield Act. The goal for to have like majority vote is to be at 32. So
and you're at
3 senators, we're at 29.
Okay.
And then for the Earned Time Act and the Second Look Act, we're at 31.
Maybe you could send me a list of the
Definitely.
Senate and whoever's not signed on so that we can have a target.
Yeah, we have a target list. I'll send it.
Send me the target list. I'll put it in the description.
Assembly, we have 63 co-sponsors and 63 for Earned Time, 61 for Second Look, and 58 for the Marvin Mayfield Act. The target is 76. So they see this and they know that it's something that's good and that is something that will help and it was something that will save. Like they see that. The issue is who is addressing. You get what I'm saying? They're like, oh no, New Yorkers are gonna get mad that they're gonna think you're trying to help criminals, you know, and they're gonna say, oh, it's another criminal bill. And
all you got to do,
they want to be reelected, and you know.
All you got to do is make them see that their money is being spent without their permission, with antiquated laws, and keeping people completely out of sight, out of mind, with no voice to be able to talk about the injustices. And thank you, Garrett Smith, because it's folks like you that bring this topic to the front so people can actually hear it. We didn't have this communication today, folks, so that we could talk about how whites attack all blacks. It's not just all blacks, but it is a proportionate number.
That's the thing. It's not. Yeah. It's
I
should say white supremacy because the people who are up there, they use race as a tool. They use racism as a tool.
That's right.
They use that, you know,
to create division. Of course.
So they can keep that supremacy. But really, it's just about the haves and the have-nots. Like they got it and they want to keep it.
And here's the thing, folks. If you think about it, we're talking about people that are criminals, and what could they accomplish? I mean, it's not like they could become the president of the United States, for instance, right? I mean, you couldn't have like 40 some federal indictments and still, run for a second term. I mean, that's just crazy to think. But we did have a black president, right? We pitched your people that, right? We gave them a black president.
See,
that's the way people thought. They thought that way.
See, that's the thing. Like they try to trick. Like, man, black people don't get their perspective. Like, and when I'm talking about black people, I'm talking about descendants of slaves.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not talking about like a Nigerian immigrant or a person from Barbados. I'm talking about black people in the United States of America, the spoils of war. Those people. Mm-hmm. Okay. The people that the birthright citizenship had to be made for.
The commodities of the 19th century.
Right. There was made the amendment where you have birthright citizenship. That was for black people. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, the trick bag with Barack Obama is that Barack Obama is not an actual like black American. You get what I'm saying? So when they say, oh, he's the first one, like his family was never enslaved. Like, what are we talking? Like, there's never been a descendant of an enslaved African in the United States that became the president. That is not a thing. Like, not even vice president. That's not a thing. That's what I'm saying. Like, foundational black Americans, black people who, were brought to the United States, they never ascended past this class. Like, it's really that. Like, but hey, you know what I mean? Like our voices get drowned out, man.
Yep,
Like,
yep, yep, for sure, man. But you know what? It's
yeah,
conversations like this, Garrett. It's taking the time all the way from Milan, Italy, to
yeah.
spend an hour and a half talking to this white boy about what's happening here. I love you for that, man. I super
Yeah, man.
appreciate your passion and what you do. I think you made a hell of a decision that will matter for your family. But I love the fact that you may have left the country, but you didn't leave the people. And we thank you for that, Garrett.
Absolutely, man.
All right, man. We're
Absolutely.
gonna have you back on. I know it because this is we just scratched the
I hope I
surface.
didn't kick the hornet's nest too hard. You know what I
Hey, you
mean?
know
I just
what? Sometimes that's what is required. And I'm for myself, I'm willing to take the kick in the teeth to get people to hear this because they don't understand what's not in front of them. It's not their fault, but once you know and once you see, we're leaving you to breadcrumbs. You can go look it up yourself. You can see how your money's being spent without any approval on your side. You can see why. You can see the connectors of why there are segregated parts of our communities that are primarily made up of black or just non-white, really.
just
Uh,
non-white, you know,
yeah, just
or
non-white.
poor, or
Yeah,
poor.
yeah.
Because
Oh, poor. Yeah, exactly. I
if you're
mean,
poor, like it's people in Utica, like Utica
absolutely.
right now, Oneida County actually has is rising with the increase of the incarceration rate. Like a lot of people are coming out of Oneida County, which is a really poor county. Like
Yep,
most of Central New York is poor. You
yep.
know, when you think of it county by county, you know.
Good place
So
for an Indian reservation, though.
I don't know.
Yeah. There's always a connector, man. But Garrett, like I said, I appreciate you taking the time, man. I look forward to working with you in the future. I'd also like to be able to have another interview with you specific to
Mhm.
what I'm doing and speaking in the prisons to encourage
Yeah, let's
inmates
do
to
it.
understand there is potential for change, but it will also require change from the inside, behavioral understanding that if you are segregating and whites against black, you're doing the same thing
You're
they did
making
on
it
the
easier for them
outside.
to
You're only
control. Yeah,
yeah, you're
you're just
just
making
you're
it
you're
easier.
perpetuating the same narrative. We can learn to work together. We can learn to work for a common goal. And there are people like you and I that are going to continue to try to push to get some fairness in this because I have met some brilliant people that were behind bars that we'll never know about. We'll never
Right.
know. They've served their time. Come on, man. It's ridiculous when you sentence a 17-year-old to 70 years. They didn't even have a chance. I mean, yeah, you might have done some dumb stuff, man. But dude, I'm
But
again, I'm I'm a community leader, man, and I was full of dumbness.
from a white
Dumbness.
supremacist perspective, it makes perfect sense. You know
Yeah.
why? Because you have a young male that's healthy, right? You could control their life expectancy. You can control what they eat. You control when they sleep. You control when they are active. All of these things, right? And you get to work them for free.
I know
Would I want to take a
people don't
45
know that
year old
reality.
or a 17-year-old?
Yep,
I'm
yep.
going to take the 17-year-old
Yeah,
and
yeah,
give
because
him
that
70
45-year-old
years.
is going to
The
age out and he's going to
45-year-old
cost us money. We
and he gonna
can't
talk
be,
back. He gonna talk too
yeah.
much.
Yeah, we got to spend too much money trying to keep him healthy, you
Yeah,
know?
his brain is already settled.
Yep.
This person's brain's not settled. I could control him. I could
Yep.
psychological control. I could do all these things to him. And
And
now,
conversely, if we have an interested group of people that understand that a young mind's not fully developed till 25, we've got the opportunity to build them up to become members of society that are giving to the community because it's not like they don't want the opportunity. It's just they've never been
they
shown
don't
the
have it.
opportunity. If you don't see it, you can't even dream it. You can't reach what you can't see, man. So, hey, I think we're on the same page. Again,
You are,
Garrett,
man.
thank you so much. Thank you for
No problem.
communities, not cages, and being a part of that and sharing some of
Yeah.
this.
Anybody can
Again,
be a part of it too. So
Again, folks, you can find out more at communitiesnotcagesny.org. And then there'll be links in the description of this video when it hits YouTube and Spotify and all that. Please follow the links. Do a little bit of investigation on your own. See what we're talking about. And if there's something you can do about it, well, hey, do something about it.
right.
All right. Until next time, Garrett Smith, thank you so much. Folks, I'm out of here and we'll see you soon. All right, Garrett, I'm going to end this on the recording and I just want to talk with you one more second. So before we go, all
Okay.
right, take care,
All right.
Garrett. Thanks again.